Hello there. The next largest job to do out in the garden is to keep up with the deadheading, and this can be a really quite complicated subject depending on how your roses grow. And in this particular video I'm going to talk to you about several things, and in the end I'm going to end up doing something really quite brutal and drastic to this Astacia vi, because it's a question lots of you are asking. Deadheading really wants to take place just as regularly as you can bear to do it, or as regularly as you have time to do it. Realistically, as soon as the first flush of flowers comes forward and those hormone levels surge into the plant, causing it to produce sexual growth, you want to keep the plant in that state for just as long as possible. Sexual growth is always stopped and hormone levels drop when a plant thinks it's achieved the goal, which normally means that the plant has been pollinated and it's able to set seed. So your goal by deadheading is to actually fool the plant into thinking that the flowers haven't been actually pollinated and it needs to continue to produce more. You can also do that by actually continuing to feed your plants every fortnight now that the first flush of flowers has been produced. Realistically, I do this around 3 times a week. I keep a bucket something like this. I mean, it doesn't matter what you use, but I keep a bucket outside at all times. I'm never ever not equipped with my secateurs, as you know full well. I prefer the Falco number 8, obviously for the size of my hands these work really well. I also use these long-nosed fruit pruners from ARS Tools. These are very, very cheap. I've got several pairs of these dotted about the garden. I tend to leave these out. I can't stress enough that these items must be kept sharp. They must be kept clean. You want to be cleaning these at least once a week, especially if you're moving from multitudes of different plants. You want to keep these sharp. If they don't make this kind of noise, they're not clean and they're not sharp. You want to be making sure that you're keeping them in really good condition. These long-nosed fruit pruners are particularly good for getting in between multi-headed plants like this Astacia vi. You can see here lots of these blooms have actually gone over. This particular one you can nip off in between the other heads that are yet to come, and you can remove the spent flowers just before the petals drop. You want to discard those, leaving other buds like this spray here to continue to flower. However, once they've actually finished flowering, you can then consider removing the spray completely. This one down here is almost nearly spent. Actually, it is spent. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove 1, 2, 3 pairs of leaf nodes right back. Now, Astacia vi does have a really nice strong repeat, but it always likes to take a little bit of a breath and a little bit of time before it produces the next wave of flowers. Behind me I've got a Royal Jubilee, which doesn't do that. The repeat is often produced well before the plant has even finished flowering, so you need to make sure that when you're removing either an individual head or spray, that you're looking out for that repeat coming on and you're pruning back to that repeat as it comes forward for its next flush of flowers. Astacia vi has had a wonderful season, so I'm going to be deadheading all around the garden about 3, maybe 4 times a week depending on the season. However, many of you are struggling during 2024 with blackspot, mould and mildew. We had a very, very mild winter here in the UK this year. Very little frost and very little cold. A lot of the roses carried a huge amount of foliage forward throughout the winter. Step this one past. Carried a lot of foliage through the winter, meaning that there's an awful lot of pest and disease problems around. We've then had a really, really cold start to the summer, with temperatures in the evenings right down between 5 and 10 degrees, meaning the air has been cold and damp and the perfect breeding ground for fungal spores like blackspot, mould and mildew. I'm now going to go ahead, and I can't believe I'm going to do this, I'm going to summer prune Astacia vi for you. Now, this is something, this particular plant doesn't need to be done, but I can't do this and talk to you about it unless I actually physically do it itself. If you have a plant that's really, really struggling, it's virtually dropped every single leaf, you're left with these bald canes everywhere that you've had to defoliate. The best thing for you to do to it now is between the first and second flushes is actually prune it as if it was the winter. This sounds really, really harsh, and you only have a very limited time to be able to do this. You can't do this at the end of July. The plant simply won't make up enough ground. If you're going to do this and you're going to carry out this technique, you must do it somewhere towards the end of June, the beginning of July. Anywhere in the first couple of weeks of July is fine, and then you must leave the plant alone and go back to picking it over and have maybe if you wanted to feel comfortable spraying it, you can spray it. It's not something I do here, but of course if that's something you want to do, you're more than welcome to go ahead and do that. And realistically, summer pruning is exactly the same as it would be if you were winter pruning a plant. You simply remove all of the growth back to a strong leaf node, If you are suffering with disease problems, you want to remove all of the leaves. Take the canes right back to an outward facing bud, pretty much to where you pruned it to in the winter. Maybe leave it 1 or 2 leaf nodes. You can see that if I do this, what I'm going to do is I'll keep you updated with how this particular plant does. I'm removing all of the growth right back to 1 leaf node. If that leaf node was infected with blackspot mould or mildew, I would then remove that foliage as well, to make sure that I'm removing as much of the diseased material as possible. But what we're going to do is we're going to cut this rose right back. I'm even going to take this leader out. I can't believe I'm doing this for you, but I wanted to show you that this is actually possible for you to do this without causing your plant any damage whatsoever. I would not suggest that you do this if your plant is under 24 months old. If your plant is young, you really want to be focusing on other techniques. But a large potted specimen or a large specimen grown in the ground like this, which has been established for 4, 5, 6 years, is absolutely fine. I must also advise caution. If you see roses that have had this done to them in a garden centre, I'm not going to say don't buy them, because they sometimes do represent really good value for money. You're going to see it an awful lot over the coming weeks as garden centres especially have really struggled to keep up with their watering. Plants have been packed into tightly closed spaces with lots of cold, damp air surrounding them, which means there's now a breeding ground of blackspot mould and mildew. You will often go into a garden centre and either find them completely bald and they're in the reduced to clear section, or a skilled gardener has pruned them back. Again, they need to be showing massive reductions for you to be interested in, and it's a toss-up between the plant surviving and the plant not surviving, because these young plants are particularly susceptible and particularly weak. So you need to make sure that the discount is significant enough for you to be able to want to buy it. But this technique should not be seen anywhere on plants after the end of July into August. The plant simply won't make up any ground if it's done too later. So do be careful. If you're seeing it over the next couple of weeks, it's absolutely fine. If you're seeing it in August, I certainly wouldn't be touching those plants. They're probably likely to die, because what they'll do is they'll send up nice, fresh, delicate growth, which if we have an early frost anywhere in October and November is likely to kill them dead. So do approach with caution. But what I wanted to show you is if this can be done on a mature plant like my Stacia Vi here. I'm removing all of the growth right back, almost winter pruning it, taking it right back to 1 or 2 leaf buds from whence it came this season. I say, if any of these leaves were showing disease, I could actually remove them completely, but my plant is not diseased. I'm just doing this as a training exercise for yourself. Now I've removed all of the foliage, all of the stems right back. I'm just going to keep going until it's all gone. Can't believe I've done this for you, but still, I want to prove that this can be done. And what I'll do is I'll keep you updated with how this plant comes on over the next couple of weeks, because I can assure you that she will be absolutely fine. She's going to bounce back really quickly. What I'm going to do with this now, and the other video I filmed today that will be posted over the next couple of days, you may have already seen it already depending on which way these goes up, is I'm now going to give my potted roses a really good feed, and everything in the garden gets NVC feed extra. You can douse it onto the leaves as a foliar feed, but you should be feeding roses in pots now every 2 weeks, and this stuff is really very good. So everything in the garden will be getting a feed of this in a pot over the next 2 weeks, every 2 weeks from now on. If you're not confident of the standard and quality of your soil, you can also go ahead and start feeding roses in the ground. But if you're anything like me and you're on top of your mulching and you're confident about the quality and structure of your soil, it's not something you actually need to do. But you can see now, Stacia Vi is virtually completely bald. Check back with me over the next couple of weeks and I'll keep you updated on its progress. But if you're suffering with a lot of black spot problems in the garden, you really don't know what to do about it, the best thing to do is to give it a summer prune. Say, pretend it's actually winter, take it right back to 2 or 3 leaf nodes from where the growth appeared from. If any disease growth remains, you can defoliate it completely, give it a really good pick over. Make sure you're removing any fallen leaves around the plant. All of this matter, we're pretending all of this is actually infected, although it's not. For me, it's nice and clean and very healthy. But you want to pretend that this is particularly bad. This is all going off to the garden incinerator, or this is going in your commercial recycling curbside bin. Matter that is infected with blackspot mould and mildew in the garden should never be composted in your domestic compost bin. Your domestic compost bin is not going to get hot enough to actually cleanse of any spores. Commercial recycling is temperature monitored to make sure it is sterile, and this is going to go off for commercial recycling. So the plant is then going to get a really good feed. Check back with a couple of weeks and I can guarantee that a rose pruned like this, as long as it's been over 24 months in the ground, will bounce back really strongly and reward you with an amazing second and possibly even third flush of flowers. So rather than fight the black spot, sometimes it's better just to prune it away, give it a really good feed, keep on top of your watering, and your plant will be absolutely fine. Once again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop me a comment below. Make sure you like, follow and share, and I will see you all again very soon. Take care now. Bye bye.